Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Queen Shimona and I'm so happy that you are here. If this is your first time here, welcome. So happy that you clicked my video and so happy that you took some time out of your day to come and kick it with me. As you can tell via the description box below, today I'm just going to be sharing my testimony with you, letting you guys know a bit about me, where I come from, why I started a YouTube channel, who I am, and what I do. I'm so excited for you guys to get to know more of who I am on a personal level. So hit that like button, don't forget to subscribe, and stay tuned. Alright guys, so let's just get right into it. I'm so excited for this video just to have a conversation with you guys, let you guys know more about me, who I am, where I come from, what I do, and what I'm all about, and how I got to where I am today, and just share my story with you guys as to what God has done in my life and where I started to where I am now. So let's just get right into it. So my name is Shimona. I won't share my last name because I am newly engaged, y'all. So my last name is going to be changing soon, but my name is Shimona. I'm currently 26 years old, currently living in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I was born in Toronto, but I moved to Edmonton at a very young age. So yeah, I was born in Toronto and I moved to Edmonton at the age of 2 months old. And I've lived with my aunt and my uncle here ever since. Now they have been my mom and dad. I didn't know that they were my aunt and uncle until I was quite a bit older. But we'll get into that as I continue on with my testimony and as I share my story with you guys. So yeah, I've lived with them ever since I was 2 months old. And my mom and my dad are foster parents. So they have a lot of different children coming in and out of the home. Now, around the age of 6 years old, there was a foster boy within our house that had begun to sexually abuse me, and this continued on for quite some time. I was in grade 1 initially when it had started, and I just remember it so vividly. He had told me if I told anyone, he would then tell everyone in my class that I peed the bed. Now, to someone in grade 1, that's a big deal. I didn't want anyone to know that I peed the bed. So, of course, I kept it a secret and I didn't tell anyone what was happening. This continued on for quite some time, week after week, day in and day out. And it was my secret. And eventually there was another foster boy that had come to live in the house, and then he had begun to engage in those acts with me as well. This continued on until my mom's son had caught him in the act, and then from there child services came and took him out of the house. After he left the house, that's when the process of healing began. And I had started to go to counseling and I started to go to child psychology. Now, I went for quite some time. I remember throughout grade 1 and grade 2 that my mom would come and pick me up and take me to go and see my child psychologist. So I was going through psychology. I was going through counseling for quite some time. And it really did help. Throughout that process, I had an auntie that was living with us at the time. And I just thank God for her life because she was a woman of prayer. She was a woman of faith. And she was just such a display of what it meant to walk with God. And I just thank God for putting her in my life. I know that she was there. And I know that she was there with me through that season of my life with purpose and intentionally, to be a focal point of, what it is to walk with God and to see an example of faith in action and to see an example of someone walking with Christ. And I know that she covered me in prayer and she covered me in love throughout that time. And I know that took a huge part in my healing process because, the child psychology was great and the counseling was great. And it helped deal with a lot of the hurt and it helped deal with a lot of the pain. But on a spiritual level, I know from that young age that it was her prayers that had interceded. It was her prayers that had, intervened and had, moved and pushed that process along further, because the way it happened, how quickly it happened, it was really nothing but the hand of God. And of course, at that young age, I didn't realize that this was God in action. I didn't realize this until I was quite a bit older. But, looking back now that I have that understanding and I have my own walk with Christ, 100% I see the hand of God that was moving in my life at that time. Now, of course, you know, as I had said, the hurt had been dealt with, and the pain in itself had been dealt with, but there was still a residue that was left over from that abuse and from those encounters, that didn't reveal itself until I was quite a bit older. Now, as I had mentioned, I wasn't raised by my birth parents. I was raised by my aunt and uncle to no knowledge of myself until I was around the age of 12, 13. And one day the phone rang and I pick up the phone and it's hey Shimona, this is your father. This is your dad. And I was like, say what? Say who? Sorry, no comprende, no understand. Like what? I was confused. I was like, what do you mean you're my father? You can imagine, I have been living with my mom and my dad. I have been living with my siblings and the family that I've known. I've been going by a completely different last name, and the phone rings, and this one phone call completely flipped my world upside down. And from there, my parents sat me down and have a conversation to tell me that they weren't really my parents, and I had a birth mother and a birth father who lived in Toronto. Now you can imagine how that would make someone feel. Now for me, immediately as that phone call came through, as immediately as I took the time to sit down and process all of this information that was being given to me, it was an overwhelming sense of rejection, of feeling unwanted, and just feeling unloved. I felt so unworthy. Like, why wasn't I good enough for you guys to keep me? Why did you give me up? Why do you have 3 of my siblings living with you and I'm the only one that you couldn't keep? And why don't you want me? Why don't you love me? Why are you just reaching out to me now when I'm a preteen? Like, why? I had so many questions. I felt so rejected. I felt so unwanted and I felt so unloved. Now, although I was living in a house where I was covered in love and I had everything I wanted, and I had everything that I needed, and it was a loving household, those feelings were there because the moment you find out that, you know, there's somebody else out there that has given birth to you and are biologically your parents, a part of you becomes curious and wants to know more, wants to know why. And there was a part of me that longed for that. And I just felt so rejected. Now, around the age of 14, this is when I had took all of that hurt, I had took all of that pain, and I had begun to rebel. Now, these were the years that I completely drove my mom crazy. Like, if my mom will sit down and talk with you, she'll tell you like the madness that I put her through. I was just like, by the grace of God, my children never put me through what I put my mom through. Like, oh my gosh, like, just crazy. Like, I had just begun to completely rebel and just completely go my own way and just do whatever I wanted. Just partying, running away. I had begun to, you know, put my hurt into self-harm and to began to, you know, start cutting and hurting myself. And then from there, I began to start seeking love and start seeking acceptance, trying to deal with that rejection through men, men twice my age, using them to pay for stuff for me, to buy me certain things, to put me and my friends up in hotels, to drive me and my friends around, and, you know, just complete and utter rebellion. Now, by the age of 16, I was in a committed relationship with someone who lived in a different province, but in my rebellion stage, I would just dip out of school, hop on a plane and go. He would fly here and I would just ditch my house for 2 weeks. My mom wouldn't know where I was, what I was doing. Looking back, my poor mother, I just up and left, didn't go to school, didn't tell nobody where I was going, had some of these other men pay for a hotel, put me up in a hotel. It was just completely ridiculous. Like, that's really, frankly, the only way to put it. It was just ridiculous. But by that age, I was in this relationship with this guy. By the age of 17, in my last year of high school, I became pregnant. Now, I thank God for my parents because they were like, you're going to finish high school, you're going to graduate, you're going to walk to school every day, we're not driving you, you're going to walk to school, you're going to finish school, and you're going to do what you need to do. So, you know, I thank God for my parents pushing me. I thank God for my parents driving me because I did end up graduating. I graduated 7 months pregnant. I remember I couldn't even write my diploma they put everybody in the gym with the desks. I couldn't even because I had this huge belly and I couldn't fit. I remember I was like trying to maneuver in the desk, and one of the teachers was like, yeah, just go into the office, bro, and like write your test. But you know, that's my story, and you know, I wouldn't change it for anything. But you know, by the grace of God, I ended up graduating high school. I graduated 7 months pregnant, and then I had my son at the tender age of 17. From there, his father had moved from Toronto to come and live here, and we moved in together. And let me tell you, that is when everything just began to spiral out of control, and that is when my life just took a completely different turn. But this is the turning point in my life which eventually led me back to Christ. Once we moved in together, the relationship became emotionally abusive, it became mentally abusive, and at times even physically abusive. There were times where the police were called on us by our neighbors because of all the screaming and the yelling that was going on in our home. I would frequently think, you know, if child services shows up at my house, I'm going to get my child taken away from me because of all of this. It was just, it broke me. It broke me on another level. It completely tore me down. You know, what I failed to mention is that during that time, I was still very involved in my church and in my youth group. And I had a lot of influential youth leaders who had helped shape me and had still just, you know, never given up on me, even when I was just doing complete craziness. I remember my youth pastor, at one time, like, I put some picture up on Facebook and I went to church and he was like, you look like a hoochie mama. And my mom was like, you ain't calling my daughter no hoochie mama, excuse me. PB, you know, right? I'm sure it's a story that we can like look back now and laugh. It was just so funny. But I just thank God for those people in my life because, you know, they never gave up on me and they kept me, you know, still involved in the church. And it gave me opportunities to, you know, hear from God, because otherwise if I didn't have that involvement, I wouldn't have had those opportunities to hear from God. And you know, when I had initially first started dating what is now my child's father, within 2-3 months into the relationship, I was at like a youth conference, and I had just like clearly, like it was so clear, I clearly heard God say, leave him. I remember I got up and I went outside and I called him because he was obviously in Toronto, and I was like, hey, yeah, sorry, I can't do this no more. I don't want to do this. So we had broke it off. I had left the youth conference, gone back home, and within a few weeks we were back together. And then from there, it was like a few months, like almost a year later, I became pregnant. I gave birth to my son. One time I was at a youth conference, one time I was at a worship night at our youth group, and again, I clearly heard the voice of the Lord say, leave him. And I remember just breaking down, and I remember just saying, God, I can't, I won't. I didn't want to leave him because I had felt like such a sense of fear of, I don't want to leave the father of my child. I don't want to be a single mom. This is something that I want because, you know, I didn't have my birth parents around me growing up, and I want to keep this family dynamic for my son, even if I'm hurting, even if I'm going through it, and even if it's not what, you know, the best that I would want for myself. I'd rather have this and give my son a family dynamic than to leave. You know, fearful of what other people would think about me, of you couldn't keep your family together, and and just all of these false fears, which really just kept me in bondage and really just kept me in that relationship. And it continued on for 6 years. We were almost at the 7-year mark, but 6 years I was in this relationship. He was my first. He was the father of my kid. He took my V card. Like, he was just the first for so many different things. The first guy I've ever lived with. But I just thank God for breaking that bondage, because God had spoken to me clearly so many times about that relationship and about leaving that relationship, but I refused to do it. I refused to leave the relationship. I didn't understand why God would want me to leave. I'm like, why would you want to tear apart my family? Why would you want my son to not have his father living with him? And it was something that I had, you know, by choice chosen to stay in, regardless of everything that was going on. Further into the relationship, he began to, you know, start to cheat. And I started to, you know, ladies, you know how you do it. You'll be scrolling through the phone. And, you know, I had found that he had begun to cheat. From there, that had just engulfed me in From there, I had just begun to submerge myself into marijuana. I just to drown out everything, just to drown out the thoughts, just to drown out like the pain, just to like numb myself completely. I had begun to submerge myself into marijuana. I had begun to submerge myself into that substance. And for those of you who know me, like even though I was rebelling, even though I was partying, even though I was doing all of these crazy things out here catching charges, like just completely crazy, I never touched a cigarette, I never touched marijuana, I never touched a single thing during that time. And it wasn't up until then, like I just needed this to numb my pain, and I became addicted to it. Now, I know it's commonly said that you can't become addicted to marijuana, like you can stop whenever you want, as people say with any other addiction, but it's a lie. I'm here to tell you, news report, breaking news, it's a lie. You can be addicted to marijuana. It's an addiction that keeps you, like you frequently need it. If you are relying on it, you're addicted to it. All that it is doing is just numbing the pain and masking it. And once that high wears off, you still have to face the same reality. It's not changing anything. It's not changing any of your circumstances. It's not helping you better yourself. Contrary to popular belief, you're not becoming more creative during that time. It's not doing anything good for you. It's just a temporary numbing. It's just a temporary pain. It's just a temporary numbing, and it's just a temporary satisfaction. But once that high wears off, baby, you're still facing the same reality, and you still have to face whatever it is that you were trying to run away from. Just a side note. But that had become the lifeline of our relationship. That was the only way that we could then get along, was by marijuana. And it became a frequent thing, like 8, 10, 12, like date, like literally guys, from morning till night, we were bunning up, like day in, day out, bunning. Like it was just consistent. And that was the only way we could get along. And if we weren't on that high, we were arguing, we were fighting, we were yelling at each other in our home with my young child in the house. It was just completely absurd. It was just completely unhealthy. It was such an unstable environment, but I was stuck in it. And honestly, quite frankly, we were both like okay with it. We were just like, we'll work through this and we'll make it work. And we thought that this was normal. I remember crying out to God, like during those times, saying, God, one day I'll have the strength to leave this relationship. One day I'll have the strength to leave this relationship. Because at that point, I felt so unworthy. All of those feelings that I felt, throughout my preteen years, all of those feelings that I felt throughout my teenage years of just feeling unwanted, of just feeling unloved, of just feeling not good enough, they had just begun to like fully, emerge themselves yet again. But now in this relationship, and I just felt unwanted, I felt unloved, I felt unworthy, I felt like I wasn't good enough. And I remember just, if I can find the tweet, I'll put the screenshot on this below. But I remember tweeting one day, one day I'll have the strength to leave. One day I'll have the strength to leave this relationship. One day I'll be good enough. One day I'll have the strength. One day I'll have the strength. But it's not a strength that you can find within yourself. It's not something that you can do on your own accord. Like when I tell you, baby, you need the hand of God to take you out of whatever circumstance, out of whatever bondage it may be, whether it's a relationship or not, like whatever bondage you were in, whatever cycles, like notice the cycles in your life, whatever cycle that you are in that is continuously happening, that is continuously showing itself. You need the hand of God to break that. It's nothing but Christ himself that can break that and can take you out of that. And my life is a testimony of that. But throughout the year of 2017, so this is about 6 years into this relationship, about 6.5 years into this relationship, living together in this, toxic cycle, I had begun to, just feel like I just need to get to church. Like there's just something I need. Like this can't be life. This can't be it. This is not good enough. Like I want more. And I had just like completely abandoned God throughout those times, throughout my, my youth years, going to youth group and so on and so on and so forth. During those years, I just completely abandoned God, because once I heard God say that I needed to leave this relationship, I was like, nah, I completely like distanced myself. But, throughout the year of 2017, that was the year that God was slowly but surely reeling me back in. So I just had this desire to start going to church. So I just found my old youth pastor. I found a church that he had started, and I just started to go, periodically here and there. Still, living my life, still partying, still doing the marijuana, still doing everything. But then I would pull up at church on Sunday, and I would go and God, do you have anything to say to me? Like, what's up? I'm here. So I would pull up. go to church. And God really started to, reel me in. He started to speak to me, and, those messages, he would speak to me and just show me that, baby girl, like, I still love you. Like, there's nothing that you can do. There's nothing that you have done that is going to change that. Like, I'm here for you. I'm your father. I want you. I love you. Like, just come back to me. And it took quite some time because, I was like ignoring God and I wasn't ready. On September 10th of 2017, sorry, we'll backtrack one day. So on September 9th of 2017, I had just got back from a weekend of partying and turning up, and I was literally laying in my bed, bunning marijuana, sitting beside this guy, scrolling through Instagram. And I came across a post from my old youth pastor's church that said, baptisms tomorrow. And literally instantly in that moment, I just knew in my spirit that I was going to get baptized tomorrow. Now, based on my own understanding, I was like, okay, in order to get baptized, you need to like go through like a preparation class, or you need to be prepared, or I need to be a member of the church, or whatever. I had all of these preconceived false notions as to why I couldn't get baptized. But I knew at that point, I was like, something said to me, but baby girl, that something is the Holy Spirit. But at that point, I was like, something said to me that I need to get baptized. I'm getting baptized tomorrow. So I remember the next morning, I gathered myself, I got ready, I grabbed my son, and I was like, we're going to church. So I drove like the 30-minute drive to the church. And as I was driving there, I was like talking to God, and I was like, God, I'm pretty sure, I think it's you that said I need to get baptized today. If I'm supposed to get baptized today, like make it happen, like show me, right? So I remember I pulled up in the church and they were doing the baptisms. And then the youth pastor had said, if anybody here wants to get baptized, come forth. And like, y'all, this was me. I was like, I couldn't move. I was shooketh. I was like, nah, like this is not happening. They did another set of baptisms and he said it again. He's like, anybody here needs to get baptized, like come forth to get baptized. When I tell you the Holy Spirit, like, get out of your seat. Like, he's like, if you don't move, the Holy Spirit's like, move. I pushed myself out of my seat and I went to his wife, and I remember I was just bawling. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why I'm here, but I just feel like I need to get baptized today. And she's like, oh yeah, we're doing this. So that day went forth and I ended up, getting baptized on that day. And literally from that moment forward, my life had completely changed. From that day forward, my life had completely changed. I remember I went home and I, just continued to do what I was doing. I remember going into my room that night, rolling a blunt, sitting with the Bible open, and reading the Bible. And from there, I just felt like God was saying to me, it's time for you to go. It's time for you to move. So I had begun the process to look for a house. I had begun the process to, start looking to move out. And then there was this place that I found I could move in within the next 2-3 weeks. So I had begun the process, and then I had then told, the guy I was with at the time, I was just like, I'm moving out, like I'm leaving. And he did not think I was serious because I had been with him for 6 years. He did not think I was serious. When I tell you, he waited till the final minute. He waited until literally the week I was moving out to message one of his friends to ask if he could stay with them, because he didn't think I was going to go, because so many times prior to this, I was like, oh, I'm going to leave, da 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 da, and I never left. But it wasn't until I had the hand and the strength of God in my life that, gave me the strength, gave me the power, gave me the courage the boldness to actually get up and do this. But I found a place, I paid my deposit, and I left. Now, y'all, let me tell you, you would think it would be all sunshine and lollipops after this. So I moved all of my stuff into the place. I was so happy. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is a new life. Like I'm finally doing this. I'm moving out. So I pack all my stuff in, I go return the U-Haul truck, and I come back to, get me and my son settled into our new house. Y'all, I turn on the light and I see this bug fly across the counter, and I was like, what is that? So then I, turn on the flashlight on my phone and I walk around and look. When I tell you guys, there was cockroaches in this place. There was cockroaches in this place. I've never seen anything. They were on the roof. They were falling off of everywhere. When I went to go look at the place initially, there was somebody who was still living there, so I didn't see it, right? But they were packing up their stuff. So I'm sure that they knew, but they didn't say anything. May God forgive you. But I moved on. I literally grabbed my son and I ran to my car, crying my eyes out. I called my mom and I was like, oh my God, like, this place is infested, And I ended up sleeping on my mom's, pull-out sofa for a month. And during that time, it was so trying because my expectation was that, okay, God, for one, you told me to leave this guy and I did. And then you moved me into a place with cockroaches, and now I'm sleeping on my mama's couch. And what's going on? And it was such a trying time because during that time, he kept coming back and trying to rekindle the relationship. And, oh, I'm going to treat you like the queen that you are, and and all of these things. And, I was tempted. I was like, man, it would be so much easier just to go back to that because I don't want to be on my mom's couch. Like, me and my mom and my parents, we're starting to butt heads because I'm living here. I have all my, some of my stuff in boxes here. It was just crazy. Like, I had to end up throwing out my couch, throwing out my brand new bed, throwing out all of my furniture that I had because I was not bringing Cockroach City into my mama's house or Cockroach City into whatever new place I would find. So I had to throw out everything, and it was such a trying time. But during that time, I really decided, it was a pivotal moment for me to say, you know what, God, you've brought me this far. Let me see what you're going to do. Let me see what you have in store. Let me just learn to trust you. I literally have no other choice at this point to either, one, go back to where I was and the bondage that I was in and the bondage that you took me from, or two, to sit here and trust you and wait to see what you have for me. Shortly after that, within 1 month and a half, I ended up finding this place, and this place was just, even the way I got the place that I'm currently living in now, it's a testament of God's goodness because I remember reaching out to, my pastor at the time, and I was like, me and my mom are fighting, we're butting heads, this is just so frustrating, I just can't do this. And he was like, do you trust that God's going to give you a place by the end of the week? And I was like, bro, it's Thursday, but okay, I'll agree with you on that. Literally that day, I was scrolling through Kijiji on my lunch hour, and I found this place, messaged the landlord, didn't think nothing of it. And she calls me and she's like, oh, you want to come look at it tonight? So I was like, okay. So I come, I look at the place, and I'm just like, oh, this place is really nice. Probably can't afford this. But okay, yeah, thanks. And during the time I was looking at the place with her, I just felt led to just share my story with her. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just leaving an abusive relationship. I'm a young single mom, just sharing my story with her. And just sharing my faith and how I recently was born again, and just sharing my story with her, just really sharing my testimony with her at that point. And she was so blessed by it. She was literally, as I left the place and I was driving to Bible study that night, she calls me, and it's 30 minutes after leaving, and she's like, hey, I just want to let you know, I'm so blessed by your story. I'm just so blessed by your testimony, what God is doing in your life, that I want to give you the place. You don't have to, you can move in tomorrow. You don't have to pay the damage deposit. You can worry about paying it as we go. I'm not going to do any credit checks. I'm not going to do any background checks. I'm not going to do any reference checks, nothing. Just come tomorrow. We'll figure everything out and I'll give you the key. I was literally just that same afternoon, I spoke to my pastor, and he was like, God is going to have you a place by the end of the week. So, during that time, I really just learned to trust God and trust, his plan for my life. So, looking back at everything that, has played out over the course of the years throughout my life, I really see nothing but the hand of God. I really see nothing but his faithfulness. Through the midst of the storm, while we're going through battles and while we're going through challenges, it can be so hard for us, to see the silver lining in it all or see the light at the end of the tunnel. But God is faithful. And when I tell you that regardless of what you are going through or regardless of what you have gone through, God has been there with you. And I guarantee you, if you look back over the course of your life, some of the things that you've been through, the Bible says that all things work together for our good. All things work together for our good. And it's so true. what the enemy intends to use for evil in our life and to be our downfall, God will flip it on him, and God will use it to bring glory to his name, and to show his goodness, and to show his faithfulness, to show his mercy, and to show his love in our lives. Looking back over the course of my life, not being raised by my birth parents. If I was raised by my parents, I guarantee you I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't be where I am today. I would be a completely different person, and it would be a completely different story, and I wouldn't be sitting here, sharing this with you right now. So that was God being intentional with my life from the very, very, very beginning. Very, 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 very beginning. As I grew older and, I had conversations like with my auntie and, my birth mom and so on and so forth. If God didn't intervene at the age of 2 months old, I probably wouldn't be here, because during that time, my mom was in such like a dire emotional state that my life probably would have been taken. I was, for one, she was supposed to abort me. I had a conversation with her, just last year I went to go visit her. She's now living in Florida. And she had told me, she had gone to the hospital to have an abortion. And right when the doctor was going to begin the abortion, I started to kick like crazy. And the doctor said he couldn't go forth with it because of the amount I was moving. I don't know what things were like back then in 1993, but that's what it was. And she couldn't abort me. So for one, God prevented that. And that just shows that has just shown me how intentional God has been with my life. And then looking back over the other areas of my life, if the rape and the sexual abuse that I had gone through from that young, tender age, was that God's, what was that? Did God make that happen? Did God make that happen to me? No, not at all. But God used it, and He's used it to shape me into the woman that I am today. So I can sit here today and tell you that if you've been through that, like, you have a Father who loves you. You have a Father who's there to help you through it, who is there to, take what the enemy intended for evil and use it for good in your life. And, I thank God that all of that happened to me. I thank God that I was sexually abused. I thank God that I was raped. As it crazy as it may sound, I thank God that that has happened, because that has shaped me into the woman that I am today. That has formed me into the woman that I am today. That has helped me to see God's hand in my life today. I wouldn't be who I am today if all of those things didn't happen in my life. I thank God for having my son at the young, tender age, because it pushed me to the point of having to turn back to him. I just thank God for everything that he's done in my life, the challenges, the highs, the lows, the ups, and the downs. This is why I'm so passionate about Christ. People always ask me, why are you so passionate about Christ? Why do you share him? Why are you always talking about him? If you know me, you know that I love Jesus. If you know me, you know that I'm talking about Christ, period. What's up? Because I'm passionate about him, because he's a part of me, because he lives inside of me, and because I know what he's done for me. I know where I was to where I am today. And it's nothing but the hand of God. It's nothing but his grace. It is nothing but his mercy in my life. It is nothing but his favor. When y'all look at me today, it doesn't make sense. When I tell you it doesn't make sense, where I am financially, where I am in my career, where I am in my relationship, where I am in every area and every aspect of my life, it doesn't make sense. But it's God, because that's the favor of God on our lives. And walking with God and choosing to, open my heart to him was honestly the best decision that I could have ever made, because since then, I have clarity on my purpose. I have clarity on my future. I have clarity on my destiny. I know why I'm here. I know whose I am. That is the most valuable thing. There's nothing more valuable than knowing who I belong to. The creator of the heavens and the creator of the earth calls me his daughter. He calls me his friend. He calls me his very own. I know whose I am. And when you know who you belong to, and you know whose you are, you know that regardless of what you go through, your Father has your back and your Father is there with you. That is why I'm so passionate about Christ, because he's real to me. He's not just a name that I call. He's not just some thing in the sky. He's real, and I have a relationship with him. I've heard his voice. I felt his presence. Now, am I perfect? I'm far from perfect, but I have a helper. I stumble and I fall daily, weekly. It's common. I stumble, I fall, I make mistakes. I'm the furthest thing from perfect. But I have his grace in my life and I have his mercy. I know that when I mess up, I can run to him and be like, hey, Father, you know what? I need a little help in this area, or whatever it may be. I have a real relationship with him. Y'all, this is practical. We're not just praying to the clouds. We're not just speaking out into the air. We have a heavenly Father who loves you, who wants to help you through the course of life, who wants to walk with you, who wants to take you out of those bondages, he just wants to be there for you. He just wants a relationship with you, who just wants to be there with you, who just wants to extend his love to you, who just wants to show you why you're here, what your purpose is on this earth. But in order to, receive that, you need to walk with him. You need to accept him into your heart. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to be perfect, because we'll never reach perfection. All that it is, when you make the decision to walk with Christ, all that you are saying is, God, you know what? I open up my heart to you and I invite you in to help me through the course of life. I know that I'm on this earth for a reason. I believe in you and I believe that you're the Son of God, and I invite you into my heart. Help me figure out my purpose. Help me figure out my destiny. Why am I here? Help me draw nearer to you. Help me learn why I'm made this way. Why am I so loud, or why am I so quiet, or why am I so quirky, or why am I so creative, or why am I this and why am I that? God is the one who has put all those gifts. God is the one who has put all of those talents into you. But in order for you to maximize their full potential, you need to walk with him. You cannot maximize what your car is able to do if you don't know, the extent of how far it can go. If you don't know the features that your car has and you're not utilizing that, like the manufacturer is the one who has built that car. They know the full extent of what that car can do. But if you don't take time to, understand some of what the manufacturer has put into that vehicle, you're not going to maximize its full potential. Yeah, you'll be driving your vehicle around and yeah, you'll be looking good. But if that car has so much more that it can do, like if the owner of a Tesla doesn't know that their Tesla can self-drive, baby, like you're not maximizing the purpose of that car. That's the same thing with us. Like, yes, we can walk this out on our own if you choose to, if you want to live this life on your own. But why would you want to? Why? If you have someone the one who created you, the one who made you, wants to help you through the course of life, who wants to show you why you're here, wants to show you why he's made you the way that you are, why would you choose anything different? You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to reach a place of perfection before you come to Christ. All that you need to do is just say, God, you know what? I'm here. I invite you into my heart and I'm ready to take you seriously. I'm ready to walk with you. Come into my life and let's do this, God. Let's do this. And that's it. Let him be the one. The day I gave my life to Christ, I went back home, I rolled a blunt and I opened my Bible. It's a journey and it's practical. It's a journey and it's practical. I'm going to say it again. It's not an overnight change. It's not an instant change. It's a journey and God is there to help you with it. He is your helper. You'll stumble, you'll fall, you'll backslide, and you'll press forward and he'll help you through that process. You don't have to do this thing called life alone. You don't. The challenges, the hurts, and the pains that you're going through, they are not yours to carry alone. The past challenges, the past hurts, and the past pains that you've been through, God is going to use that to decorate your life. God is going to use that to bring him glory. He's going to show you how he's been present throughout all of those moments, throughout my rape, throughout every single situation in my life. Looking back, I see the hand of God. As crazy as it sounds, I see the hand of God. And I want you to see that very hand of God for yourself in your own life. He loves you. He is faithful. He has not given up on you and he will never give up on you. But I want you to make a decision. I want you to seriously just take some time, like after this video or now, just to think, what am I waiting for? Are you waiting till you're older so you can live out your partying days? Are you waiting till you're older so that you can enjoy your life now? And newsflash, baby, you ain't enjoying nothing. You're not enjoying anything. It's false. It is false and it's deception. Those days of my partying, those days of me being up in the club, walking up myself, like what was I doing? It's false and it's temporary pleasures and it wasn't doing anything for me. As a woman of God, baby, trust me, you can still be out here looking cute. Okay? You can still be out here living your life, having fun, enjoying yourself without taking part in all of the garbage of this world that is here to distract you. Make a decision. I want you to make a decision. Just make a decision. Just make a decision just to say, God, I invite you into my life. God, I want to walk with you. If you've done it before and you've backslided and you know that you're not in the place that you need to be with God, remake that decision. There is never, you can never do it too many times. You can never say, God, I repent, I forgive you, and I invite you into my heart. Do it again and again and again, as many times as you need to. If you feel as though, if you're convicted and you feel as though you've backslidden, if you feel and you know as though you are not in that place with God where you need to be, repent and come back home. Don't deceive yourself to think, it's too late, it's too soon, or, oh yeah, I'm a Christian, I believe in God. There's a difference between believing in God and being born again. The day that I made that decision to be baptized, the day that I made that decision to be born again, all that time prior to that, I was sure believing in God. I believed in God, but there's a difference. There's a difference. I didn't see real change. I didn't see the hand of God moving in my life. I didn't see that change internally and externally until I made that decision to walk with God. And it's time for you to make that decision. I want you to reach out to me if you have any questions. If you just want to talk, like, DM me, slide in my DMs. Hey girl, what's up? I watched your video. Like, let's talk. Slide in my DMs, talk to me. Like, I'm here for you guys. I love you guys. This is a practical journey and you don't have to do this alone. God is real. His love is real and he loves you so much. I hope that this video has blessed you. I hope that this helps you just feel a little bit closer to me, knowing me on more of a personal level. I want us to, talk and like get to know each other as we go through this journey with YouTube. If you haven't already hit that like button, go ahead and hit like. Go ahead and share this video with somebody who needs to watch this, somebody who needs to hear this word. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for any upcoming content that we'll be having. Follow me on Instagram, follow me on Facebook under Queen Shimona. Those are all my handles. Add me on Snapchat, follow me on Twitter, slide in my DMs, send me an email, whatever it is that you need to do. Reach out to me. I love you. God loves you, and be blessed.